The Agric Minister's two-day working visit to the Upper West region was to interact with various industry players in the agric sector. His first port of call was the regional minister, Dr. Hafiz bin Salih, where he expressed grave concerns over the smuggling of grains such as maize to neighboring Burkina Faso, contrary to a directive banning the export of grains from Ghana.
The critical one is to do with the interaction with the stakeholders, especially our officials, the district directors of agriculture, the extension officers, the input dealers, agro-processors, that we are meeting straight from here into that meeting, so that we learn more about what is going on. I mean, the impact of the shortage of inorganic fertilizer, how farmers are responding to that, how farmers are changing their working practices with organic fertilizer, which we are now promoting as a substitute for the inorganic fertilizer, and the impact on production and all that, the weather patterns at this year's production. Particularly important to us is this regulation banning export of grains from Ghana. Yeah. And like what used to happen with the inorganic fertilizer subsidies, we are hearing a lot of reports of food items, the grains going to Burkina and other places through unauthorized routes and through authorized routes. The president has formed a task force to implement the ban, and yet we are getting a lot of reports from your region. So, Mr. Minister, it's something that is of great concern to us in cabinet and to this government, and I think that you really need to crack the whip, because otherwise we cannot use the taxpayers' money to subsidize the activities of our farmers only for other West African countries to benefit against our own interests. We need every grain we can produce, not only for human consumption, but also for livestock development.
He then met the district directors of agriculture, extension officers, input dealers, agro-processors and other stakeholders in the agric industry, where he expressed similar sentiments and appealed to them to collaborate with the security agencies to crack the whip on the smuggling menace.
We are getting constant reports of huge amounts of our produce crossing the borders into Burkina, all the way to Niger, Togo, and so on and so forth. And I'm really disappointed with the regional director of agriculture to say that I hear. You hear what? This is the sweat of the Ghanaian farmer, the sweat of the Ghanaian taxpayer, and you are in charge of the region. If you hear, you have to take action. At least you have to dedicate all the border districts. You have the district directors of agriculture. You should be able to collect information and tell us, and send reports to us that this is what we are learning, so many tracks of this crossing, of this product. You just don't sit and say you hear. You hear what? Of course, we all hear, but that's not the point. The point is that we are managers of the agricultural economy of this country, and we have to be proactive on that. So I'm appealing to you about the head of your regional director of agriculture, those district directors who are on the borders. Please open your eyes, not only your ears.
Available data from the Upper West Regional Directorate of the Ministry of Food and Agriculture indicate that hundreds of tons of maize are exported through Ghana's borders to neighboring Burkina Faso at Hamle and Tumu, as well as other non-approved routes to Burkina Faso and other West African countries. Some produce scheme runners expressed fears of an imminent food shortage in the coming days if the smuggling is not curtailed.
First of all, the issue of production has been a challenge this year. Currently, we are having to do about 60% of what we did last year, that is 2021, as a result of one, high cost of fertilizer and the unavailability of fertilizer in the system. So this resulted in we reducing our productions. Secondly, now that we have done productions with the little resources we have, we are also faced with the influx of foreigners, Burkina Faso, Togo, and then Nigerian brothers coming into the system to mop up the very few that we have in the system. So it is a challenge that we have, and we foresee a very high food insecurity in the coming days if Ministry of Interior and then the district assemblies do not put in measures to protect the borders.
But I was also expecting to hear him reporting on the ministry also trying to support the region in terms of machinery. But unfortunately, I didn't get that. At the later part of the open forum, the director in charge of engineering mentioned that there is equipment for soybean harvesting instead of the shearer, but he went on to mention the price, which is 1,030,000.
Reporting for Citi News, my name is Latif Mahama. Wa.